The chamber floated in silence above a dying star, hidden so deep in space that even the most advanced scanners would miss it. The station had no windows, no markings, nothing that revealed its purpose. To anyone passing by, it would seem like a forgotten piece of metal from an ancient war. But inside, far away from every major trade route and patrol line, the most powerful group in the known galaxy had gathered. This was the Galactic Council, a collection of species that had shaped laws, borders, and peace for thousands of cycles. And today, they were meeting for a reason they did not dare record in any official archive. One by one, the council members entered the circular hall. Their steps, some heavy, some soft, some more like the brushing of leaves, echoed across the polished floor. Their voices were low, almost whispers, as if speaking too loudly might somehow alert the universe to their presence. The air hummed with tension. Even without words, anyone could feel that something serious was about to be discussed. At the center of the chamber was a broad table made from a crystal-like material that glowed with soft light. This was where discussions of war, peace, alliances, and secrets normally took place. But today was different. Today there was only one subject: humans. The oldest council member, a being with a tall frame and skin that looked like shifting stone, settled in his seat. He glanced around the hall, waiting until every representative was present. When at last the final chair was filled, he tapped the table. The lights dimmed, and the room fell even more silent. "We begin," he said, his voice steady, but carrying a weight that made several delegates shift uncomfortably. At his signal, a group of analysts entered the chamber. They carried a stack of glowing data tablets. Each one held records, scans, footage, and reports collected over centuries, evidence the council had kept hidden from almost every species. But today, all that information was laid bare. The analysts placed the tablets on the table. The crystal surface absorbed the data and projected it into the air as floating images. The council members watched quietly as star maps appeared first, showing the spread of human colonies. From a distance, it didn't look like much. But then the projection zoomed in, highlighting one detail after another. Small outposts built on barren worlds. Stations on moons with atmospheres, so thin other species could barely visit. Settlements established in places once believed impossible to live in. The council members murmured among themselves. They all knew humans were expanding. But seeing the complete picture made it clear how fast that expansion had become. "They are moving quicker than we predicted," one representative said softly. Another shook her head, the feathers along her jaw trembling. "Quicker than they should be able to." The analysts brought up more images. This time they were videos. The first showed a human team repairing a damaged research base on a frozen planet. The winds were so strong they tore metal from structures. The temperature was so deadly that most species would have collapsed in seconds. But the humans moved through the storm, shouting instructions, carrying heavy equipment, and working as if the environment was nothing more than an inconvenience. The council watched in silence. Next came footage of a disaster response on another world. A meteor storm had ripped through a human colony. Instead of abandoning the settlement, the humans rebuilt it within weeks. The council saw humans waking with bruised faces, hands covered in dust, yet smiling as they worked. They helped one another, repaired machines that were nearly destroyed, and kept living as if nothing could stop them. A delegate with thin, glowing eyes leaned forward. "They keep surviving, even when they lose everything. And they learn," another added quietly. This was the part that bothered the council the most. Humans did not only survive, they changed. They adapted. They studied what harmed them and found ways to overcome it. In just a few generations, they had mastered environments that took other species hundreds of cycles to understand. They learned languages, tools, sciences, and strategies far faster than predicted. Worse, each breakthrough seemed to lead to 5 more. For the Council, this was not comforting. It was frightening. The oldest member tapped the table again. The projections shifted to something far older. These were not modern reports. These were relics records from civilizations long gone. Most were shattered pieces of stone or metal, preserved only because the Council had hidden them away for thousands of years. They carried warnings carved in forgotten languages, warning of a fast species, a storm of understanding, a race that learns too quickly. Some believed these ancient writings referred to myths. Others believed they were predictions. Now, many feared they might be about humans. A younger delegate hesitated before speaking. We have monitored them since their first signals left their home world. Their growth is accelerating. They are not slowing down. Another nodded. If they reach our level of knowledge too soon, we do not know how they will react. This was the heart of the concern. It wasn't that humans were dangerous. It wasn't that they were hostile. It was the unknown. No species in galactic history had moved at such speed. No species had changed the galaxy's balance this quickly. The Council believed in order. They believed in stability. And humans, in their unpredictable way, seemed to challenge both. The oldest member raised a hand. The murmurs stopped. The chamber fell quiet again. We did not gather today for fear, he said. We gathered for understanding. But we must also accept reality. Humans cannot learn about this meeting. They cannot uncover the full scale of the galaxy before we are prepared. If they do, their reaction might shake every world we govern. A chill settled over the room. Even those who admired humans felt uneasy. The idea of telling humans the truth about the Council, about the ancient secrets, about the full expanse of intelligent life, seemed too risky. Humans were curious, determined, emotional, and inventive. They would push into every corner of the galaxy the moment they knew it existed. One representative spoke up, her voice trembling slightly. What do we do? If we continue hiding everything, we risk conflict later. If we reveal everything now, we risk conflict sooner. The oldest member replied, We will continue what we have done for generations. Watch them. Study them. Guide them quietly from a distance. But we cannot let them know how much we know. Not yet. The Council members exchanged uneasy glances. A few looked as if they wanted to argue, but no one did. The decision had not been said aloud, but everyone understood it. Humans must remain unaware of the Council. The lights brightened slightly, signaling the end of the analyst's presentation. The projections faded. The tablets dimmed. Yet the tension in the air grew heavier, as if everyone felt the weight of the choice they were about to make. The oldest member spoke again, slower this time. We begin the discussion phase. Speak honestly. One by one, each representative shared their thoughts, concerns, and fears. Some believed humanity could become a valuable ally. Others believed humanity could become the greatest threat the galaxy had ever seen. There were no easy answers, only theories and predictions. And none of them felt certain. But beneath all their words, one silent truth rested in the center of the chamber. Humans were becoming something the galaxy had never seen before. Stronger in adversity, faster in learning, unpredictable in every form. And if the Council didn't act carefully, everything they had built for thousands of years could unravel as the meeting stretched on. The star outside continued its slow collapse, throwing faint red light across the station. It flickered along the chamber walls like a heartbeat. It was almost fitting. The galaxy felt alive, restless, waiting. The chamber grew quieter as the next group of analysts stepped forward. They carried more recordings, more reports, more evidence collected secretly over decades. Everyone in the hall already felt the pressure of the last discussion, but now the atmosphere became even heavier. They were about to confront the information many of them wished they had never seen. The center of the table glowed again, and the projections slowly returned. This time they didn't show human colonies or settlements. They showed something far more troubling. They showed how humans changed after each hardship. The first projection displayed a barren moon with almost no air. For most species, this place was a death sentence. But the footage revealed humans walking around in reinforced suits, drilling into the ground, building shelters out of the rocky surface. They moved slowly but steadily, refusing to stop even when storms blasted them with sand so sharp it scratched the camera lens. One representative leaned closer. "They should not be able to adapt this quickly," she whispered. The analyst responded in a low voice. "This footage is only 7 years after their first landing here. 7. Look how much they have built." The projection zoomed in on a small settlement, metal walls anchored into stone. Windshields built from scrap, solar panels raised on sturdy frames. Humans were working together, carrying equipment, repairing machines, helping one another through the rough terrain. There was no fear on their faces. Only focus, determination, and a strange sense of excitement. The next recording appeared. It was taken on a world with a poisonous atmosphere. The air itself was dangerous. Plants released fumes that could weaken most species in minutes. And yet, there were humans again inside armored suits, studying the plants, gathering samples, and taking notes with calm confidence. A delegate with silver-colored markings on his face shook his head slowly. "Why do they keep testing themselves like this?" Another replied, "Because they want to understand everything. They don't avoid danger. They walk toward it." More data appeared, this time showing human ships. They weren't perfect. They weren't beautiful like the ones used by older species. But they were practical. They were strong. They were repaired again and again, patched with different materials, upgraded with every new discovery. Even when damaged, they kept flying. A council member with flickering eyes pointed at the screen. "Look at how they rebuild. Look at how they improve. Every time they fail, they come back with something better." The analysts nodded. This is their most concerning trait. They do not give up. The projection changed again, showing a timeline. It listed human technological growth over the last 2 centuries. The line didn't rise slowly. It shot upward like a rocket. A murmur spread across the room. It was one thing to watch humans survive hard environments. It was another to see their intelligence mapped out so clearly. The line kept rising, and rising, and rising. One representative finally asked the question everyone was thinking. "How is this possible? They started far behind us. They had no knowledge of the galactic community, no ancient archives, no guidance. And yet, look at them." The analyst explained softly. "They learn fast. Very fast. They absorb information quicker than any species we have documented. Their technology grows at a speed that should take several lifetimes. And this is only the beginning." The room grew still. Even those who usually spoke confidently looked uneasy. Another recording began. It showed humans studying an old crashed probe. It wasn't theirs. It belonged to a minor species that accidentally sent it near human space. The humans recovered it, opened it, and began studying its internal parts. They worked in teams, using tools they had invented themselves. They didn't panic. They didn't hide it. They didn't fear the unknown technology. Instead, they tried to learn from it. A delegate with thin antennae clicked her fingers nervously. "They reverse-engineered parts of it, didn't they?" The analyst nodded. Within months, the hall fell into a deep silence. Every council member understood the meaning of that single sentence. If humans could reverse-engineer something from another species, without even knowing alien life existed. Then what would happen when they finally discovered the truth? The next projection was even more unsettling. It showed an old human archive, a collection of their early actions when they first went into space. The council had been monitoring them since then, watching quietly from the shadows. At first, humans made mistakes. They lost ships. They underestimated planets. They miscalculated storms. But after every failure, their progress doubled. A representative with deep green eyes spoke softly. They take every disaster and turn it into a lesson. And they don't forget those lessons, another added. The analysts played an audio recording human voices discussing an accident that occurred decades ago. It was a simple conversation about what went wrong, how to fix it, and how to prevent it next time. There was no hopelessness, only problem solving. One council member folded his hands. It is not their strength that worries me. It is their thinking. Their minds move differently. Another replied, unpredictable. That is what they are. The analysts then switched to a collection of historical human achievements, things they accomplished in short periods. Inventions created under pressure, breakthroughs made during emergencies. These recordings weren't meant to praise humans. They were evidence that something unusual was happening, something that didn't follow normal patterns. The oldest council member finally spoke after a long silence. They are not like us. They change too fast. Their limits are unclear. The projections changed again, this time showing the findings collected by ancient civilizations. These relics were thousands of years old. They contained warnings carved into metal and stone. Warnings about a species that rises from struggle, a species that moves like flame, a species that learns faster than stars grow cold. Many believed these were old myths. Many believed they were symbolic. But after seeing everything humans had done, the warnings seemed disturbingly accurate. A young observer from the back stepped forward cautiously. There is one more record, he said. One the council rarely discusses. The chamber turned toward him. He placed a small device on the table. The crystal surface absorbed it and projected a faint image of a tablet covered in ancient symbols. The language was old, so old that only a few experts could still translate it. But one line stood out, translated under the projection. The fast minds will come. They will not be stopped by the walls of the old. The delegates shifted uncomfortably. Many avoided meeting each other's eyes. No one wanted to admit what this sounded like. The young observer continued quietly. Some scholars believe this prophecy describes humans. The hall became so silent it felt like the air itself had stopped moving. One representative finally whispered, "If that is true, then we may be too late." The analysts brought up another set of data. This time, it showed communication patterns, the first signals humans ever sent into space. The council had intercepted these signals years ago. At first, they thought humans were harmless. Their technology was primitive. Their understanding was small. But slowly, the signals became more complex. Humans were learning about the universe through their own efforts. A council member rubbed his forehead. They have no idea we exist, yet they are reaching toward the stars anyway. And they will reach us eventually. Another added, The projections finally faded, and the lights in the chamber brightened just a little. But no one felt any relief. The evidence was clear. Humans were growing faster than any species before them. They were surviving in impossible conditions. They were learning at alarming speed. They were adapting in ways the council had never predicted. The oldest member looked around the table, his voice calm but firm. We must decide what to do. The longer we wait, the harder this will become. A delegate with faint glowing skin replied nervously, "If we hide everything from them, we risk creating fear or conflict later. But if we reveal everything now, the shock may lead to something worse." Another said, "If they learn too soon, they might react unpredictably. We don't understand what their reaction will be. That was the core problem. No one knew how humans would respond to the truth. Would they be excited? Afraid? Angry? Curious? No pattern existed that could answer this. Humans didn't follow old rules. They made their own. The oldest member closed his eyes briefly before speaking. We will keep the truth hidden. For now, we must monitor them more closely. Study their behavior. Limit what information reaches them. And prepare for the day they eventually discover us. Another representative asked, "And if that day comes sooner than expected?" The oldest member replied quietly, "Then the galaxy will face something new. Something we cannot fully prepare for." The chamber grew still again. Everyone knew the truth. Humans were advancing. Humans were learning. Humans were approaching the edge of knowledge that the Council had guarded for thousands of years. And once humans reached that edge, nothing would stay the same. The chamber lights dimmed once again as the Council prepared for the most difficult part of the meeting. Every representative knew what was coming. This part was the reason they had traveled across the galaxy in total secrecy, using hidden routes and encrypted signals. Their voices were quieter than before, and even the bravest among them looked uneasy. It wasn't because of danger. It was because of the decision they were about to make, one that could shape the future of hundreds of species. At the center of the table, a new projection appeared. This time, it did not show planets or ancient warnings or human colonies. It showed the agenda for the closed vote. The words floated gently in the air, glowing with pale blue light. A few delegates shifted in their seats. A closed vote meant the discussion would be sealed, protected by laws older than most civilizations present. Nothing said inside this phase would ever be shared publicly. Not even summaries. Not even hints. The oldest member tapped the table, his stone-like skin dimming slightly. "We begin the private session," he said softly. The room sealed itself automatically. Soundproofing walls tightened, and a faint energy field closed around the chamber. The outside world no longer existed. Only the Council remained. The projection changed again, showing three options, three possible actions regarding humanity. Option 1 was increased surveillance. Option 2 was controlled isolation. Option 3 was something no one wanted to say out loud. The tension thickened instantly. A representative with silver stripes along her cheeks leaned forward. "Before we vote, we must discuss the consequences," she said carefully. "Not only for us, for them." Another nodded. "And for the galaxy." The oldest member agreed. "Speak freely. This decision cannot be rushed." The first representative to stand was from a peaceful species known for their gentle diplomacy. His voice was soft as he spoke. Humans are unpredictable, but unpredictable does not mean dangerous. They have curiosity, passion, and a strong sense of community. We should guide them quietly, not push them away. Some nodded, but others remained still. Another representative rose, this one from a world shaped by harsh deserts and fierce storms. Guiding them quietly may not be enough. They learn faster than we can control. Every secret we hide from them might become a problem later. You all saw the recordings. They reverse engineer anything they touch. She paused, letting the weight of her words settle. If they discover we hid the truth, they may see it as betrayal. A low murmur moved across the chamber. The third representative stood slowly. His species was known for their logical minds, and when he spoke, his tone was calm but cold. "We must consider the possibility that humans may outgrow us. Not in centuries. In decades. Their minds evolve quickly. Their technology advances under pressure. If they expand too far, too fast, they may destabilize the balance of our region." Several delegates looked down at the table. They didn't want to agree with him. But they couldn't deny the truth either. The analyst team stepped forward, holding a final data set. It was the most sensitive collection of all. It showed projections mathematical models, predicting what might happen if humans continued their current growth. In some outcomes, humans became peaceful explorers. In others, they grew into powerful protectors. But in a few rare outcomes, humans became something the Council feared, a force too strong to guide, too curious to stop, too resilient to contain. The projections flashed on the table, each scenario more complex than the last. After a few minutes, the images faded. No one spoke at first. Finally, a representative from a small aquatic species folded her hands and whispered, "We cannot choose based on fear. But we cannot ignore it either." The oldest member nodded slowly. "This is why we vote in secret. You must choose what you believe will protect both them and us." But before voting began, another voice rose from the far end of the chamber. It belonged to one of the younger delegates, a recently appointed representative from a minor species. He spoke cautiously, but his words carried strength. "There is another factor we are ignoring," he said. "Humans have not harmed anyone. They have not attacked. They have not expanded aggressively. All their growth has been out of curiosity, not conquest. Should we punish them for being ambitious?" Another representative replied quietly, "No one wants to punish them. But ambition, if left unchecked, can become something else." The younger delegate did not sit down. "But isn't that true for every species here? Didn't many of our worlds grow faster than expected at some point? And weren't we guided instead of pushed away?" The room fell silent. He had a point. Many civilizations had grown quickly in their early stages. The difference was that humans were growing faster than any model predicted. The oldest member sighed, a deep sound that echoed around the chamber. "Your words are fair," he said. "But we cannot treat humans like any other species. They are unique. Their minds adapt in ways we cannot explain. Their behavior shifts unpredictably between calm and passionate. Their technology improves even under stress. And they do all this without knowing the galaxy exists." This was the heart of the problem. Humans were doing all of this alone. If they learned that hundreds of species existed, species that had been observing them silently, no one knew how they might react. The representatives took several moments to gather their thoughts. After that, the discussion took a darker turn. A representative from a species that had survived multiple wars stood slowly. Her voice was filled with caution. "We must speak honestly about option 3, she said. Many looked away instantly. No one wanted to discuss it. But they all knew it was on the table. She continued, "I do not support it. But we cannot ignore it. There are voices in the shadows. A few among us believe humanity should be stopped before they reach a point where no one can stop them. I do not agree with this, but we must address it openly before voting." The room stayed painfully quiet. Another representative spoke after a long pause. "That option is unacceptable. Humans have shown no intention to harm anyone. Ending them out of fear would be cruel, and it would violate everything the Council stands for." A few nodded. Some looked relieved, but one delegate leaned forward, his expression troubled. "Cruel or not, the possibility must be recorded. If they one day surpass us, we must be prepared to face consequences." The young observer from earlier, the one who had mentioned the ancient prophecy, rose again. His voice trembled slightly, but his words were strong. "Humans are curious, yes, but they are also compassionate. When disaster strikes their people, they rush to help. When something is unknown, they try to understand it, not destroy it. We cannot assume they will become dangerous." An older delegate replied, "It is not danger we fear. It is unpredictability." The oldest member raised his hand. "Enough. We all understand the risks. We all understand the potential. Now we vote. The chamber dimmed even more. The table projected 3 glowing symbols, each one representing an option. The energy field around the chamber tightened, ensuring absolute privacy. One by one, representatives pressed their choices. Some hesitated. Some pressed quickly. Some looked torn between responsibility and fear. When the last vote was cast, the table absorbed the results. The projection vanished, sealing the vote forever. Not even the council members would see who chose what. Only the final decision mattered. The oldest member waited as the system processed the results. A few seconds passed. Then a new message appeared in soft blue light. The council had chosen to limit human knowledge. This meant humans would remain in the dark. Their communication would be monitored. Their expansion would be observed closely. And anything that might reveal the true scale of the galaxy would be quietly blocked, redirected, or disguised as natural phenomena. A quiet sadness filled the chamber. Even those who voted for it did not feel victory. They only felt the heavy responsibility of their choice. The oldest member spoke softly, his voice filled with understanding rather than triumph. We protect them by protecting ourselves. This decision would remain sealed, and we will do everything we can to ensure peace. But even as he said those words, a faint sense of unease moved through the room. Because deep inside, every representative knew the truth that, no matter how much they tried to hide, humans would eventually discover them. And when that day came, no vote would save the galaxy from what followed. The decision had been made, but the chamber did not relax. Even after the vote ended, the tension hung in the air like a heavy cloud. No one celebrated. No one spoke proudly. The council members simply sat there, knowing they had chosen the safest option, but not the most comforting one. Keeping humans in the dark meant protecting them. Yes, but it also meant watching them from a distance, guiding them silently, and hoping their curiosity didn't outrun the council's ability to hide the truth. The energy field around the room faded slowly as the private session ended. The chamber opened itself again to the rest of the station. But even with the walls no longer sealed, no one rushed to leave. Everyone remained seated, as if their bodies had become too heavy to stand. They knew the vote wasn't the end. It was the beginning of something far more complicated. The analysts stepped forward once again, carrying the next set of reports. Their expressions were tense, not because they feared the council, but because they feared the consequences of the council's decision. The oldest member gestured for them to continue. They placed several glowing tablets on the table. The crystals absorbed them and projected new images into the air. This time, it wasn't about human growth or ancient warnings. It was about intervention, how to control information, how to redirect humans away from dangerous discoveries, how to keep them from stumbling into the truth. The first projection showed the routes humans used for long-range signals. The lines glowed like thin blue threads wrapping around their tiny corner of the galaxy. Most of these signals didn't travel far enough to reach any major species, but some were getting stronger. Humans were developing new transmitters, better antennas, faster communication methods. If the trend continued, their voices would soon reach areas the council could not easily block. Representative with faint glowing eyes rubbed his forehead. "We must adjust our filters," he said quietly. "Intercept the strongest transmissions before they go beyond the monitored zones." Another added, "And we must disguise the interference. Make it look natural, like cosmic noise or a dust cloud passing between systems." The analysts nodded and brought up models showing how to blend council actions into natural readings. They had done similar work before for other young civilizations. But humans were not like those civilizations. Humans checked everything. They questioned every odd signal, every strange reading. If something didn't make sense to them, they didn't brush it aside. They investigated. A representative leaned in with concern. If they detect patterns in the interference, they'll know someone is behind it. Another replied, then we must be careful. Too much control will look suspicious. Too little will let their messages slip into unmonitored space. The chamber fell quiet again. The projection shifted to another topic: space routes. Humans had only explored a few nearby systems, but their ships were becoming more ambitious. They were building faster drives, using stronger engines, even experimenting with new materials. It was only a matter of time before they tried to travel farther. A delegate with shimmering scales frowned. We must disguise certain regions near their border. Make them appear dangerous on their sensors. Another added, radiation storms. Magnetic disturbances. Anything that convinces them to turn back. But not too much, someone else said. If the data looks unrealistic, they'll test it. They'll send probes to confirm. Everyone knew that was true. Humans never accepted something simply because it appeared dangerous. They needed proof. They needed physical results, not warnings. The oldest member sighed, his voice steady but concerned. We guide them away gently, quietly, and we hope they do not question it too deeply. Next, the analysts displayed a chart showing human scientific progress. It included everything humans were studying: energy experiments, propulsion systems, deep space scanning, and even early theories about life beyond their world. The chart looked like a river splitting into 50 directions at once. Humans were exploring everything. They didn't specialize. They didn't limit themselves. They ran toward every idea with the same curiosity. A representative spoke softly. If they make a breakthrough in scanning technology, they could detect hidden objects, even our cloaked stations. Another replied, we have to redirect their research. They rely heavily on their own data. If we feed slightly incorrect signals into their telescopes, we can slow their progress without them noticing. The analysts agreed. We can shift background radiation patterns, adjust certain readings, introduce harmless distortions. But as soon as they said it, one representative raised a hand. Be careful. Humans are imaginative. If the sky looks strange to them, they will study it harder, not slower. That single comment made half the chamber uneasy. The analysts moved to the next part of their presentation. It was about human behavior. Everyone leaned closer. This was the section that mattered most. Technology could be guided. Signals could be blocked. Ships could be redirected. But human behavior? That was something no model could predict perfectly. The projection showed a timeline of major human responses to unknown events. Strange lights in the sky, signals they couldn't explain, mysterious readings, all these things triggered the same reaction. Humans became more curious, more determined, more excited. A representative with soft feathered hair spoke gently. If they sense that something is hiding from them, they will chase it. Another nodded, especially if it looks like a mystery. The analysts then played several clips of humans discussing ideas about the universe. Their voices were excited, hopeful, filled with imagination. They wondered about other life, other worlds, other civilizations. They asked questions with no fear. Even when they didn't have answers, they kept thinking, kept dreaming, kept exploring. One council member whispered, "They are already looking for us." Another added, "And they are getting closer." The projection shifted again, showing a list of human discoveries from the past few decades: signals, cosmic structures, strange patterns, unexplained energies. Nothing directly revealed the Council's existence, but many discoveries were close. Too close. A delegate asked, "How long before they detect an outpost accidentally?" An analyst replied, "We estimate 30 to 50 cycles." The chamber fell silent. That wasn't long at all. The oldest member leaned back, thinking deeply. After a moment, he said, "And we must strengthen our shields around border stations. No energy leaks. No unusual readings." Someone added, "And we must stop visiting regions near their patrol routes. Even cloaked ships leave traces." The analysts brought up another set of data-human emotional responses. This part made the council nervous. Humans were strange in this way. They could feel more than one emotion at the same time. They could be scared and excited simultaneously. Angry but hopeful. Hurt but still determined. A representative spoke slowly. If they feel betrayed, they react with strong emotion. Strong action. Another added, but if they feel respected, they can become allies. A third delegate shook her head. "We don't even know how to earn their trust without revealing ourselves." This was the heart of the problem. To gain trust, the council had to tell the truth. But telling the truth too early might cause chaos. The oldest member finally stood. His tall frame cast a long shadow across the table. His voice carried the weight of centuries. "We must make a plan," he said. "A long-term plan. One that prepares for every outcome, good or bad." The analysts switched to the final slide. It was more of a question than a report. How do we prepare for a species that grows faster than predictions? The room fell silent for a long time. No one had an easy answer. Finally, a representative from a quiet forest world said softly, "We prepare for all possibilities. We prepare for discovery, for contact, for friendship, and for conflict. We cannot assume only one path." Another nodded. "We build protocols, emergency alerts, defense systems, communication lines, and we train our diplomats for the day humans arrive at our borders." Someone else added, "And we hope that day is far away." But another representative spoke gently, "Or we hope that day brings peace." The oldest member tapped the table lightly, signaling the end of the session. The projections faded, leaving the chamber dim and quiet. Every representative knew the truth. They didn't want to say out loud, no matter how carefully they guided humans. No matter how quietly they hid the truth. No matter how many signals they blocked, or how many routes they disguised. Humans would keep pushing. Humans would keep asking. Humans would keep searching. And sooner or later, whether the galaxy was ready or not, humans would find them. Far below the hidden chambers of the Galactic Council, humans continued their quiet work, unaware of the eyes watching them. On a small research station near the edge of human-controlled space, a team of astrophysicists and engineers was piecing together something extraordinary. They had been tracking signals that seemed impossible, strange patterns of energy drifting through the void, almost like whispers from nowhere. At first, they thought it was interference, natural cosmic noise. But as they recorded more, the patterns became clearer. They were structured, deliberate, almost like someone or something was trying to communicate. The lead researcher studied the data intensely, his eyes scanning the screens late into the cycle. He noticed small anomalies, sequences of pulses that repeated in irregular rhythms, faint signals buried beneath stronger cosmic background noise, and patterns that seemed almost intelligent. The more he looked, the more convinced he became that these were not random. He called the team together. "Look at this," he said, pointing to a series of charts. "I've been recording this for months. At first, I thought it was a glitch. But see these patterns? They repeat in a way that can't be natural." The others leaned in, curious. One engineer tapped the screen. "It almost looks like a code. But if it is, it's unlike anything we've seen before." A young linguist on the team frowned, staring at the pulses of data. "It's layered. Multiple sequences stacked together. Each layer slightly different from the last, but connected. It's like someone is hiding a message in the noise." The lead researcher nodded slowly. "Exactly. And if this is intentional, then someone out there knows we exist. The team began running simulations, testing every possible source. They checked nearby systems, known fleets, and even distant human probes. Nothing matched. The signal did not come from a human source. It did not come from any natural event. It was subtle, deliberate, and unlike anything in recorded history. Hours turned into days as the team worked in near silence. Sleep was brief, meals were skipped, and their focus sharpened with each new observation. They began to see patterns within patterns, layers of information that seemed almost encrypted. Each discovery raised new questions. Who could be sending this? Why now? And most importantly, what did they want? Finally, the linguist spoke. I think I can decipher part of it, but it will take weeks, maybe months. It's complex, but it's structured around concepts we don't normally use. There's logic here, and intent. Someone doesn't want us to misinterpret it. The lead researcher's brow furrowed. Intent? You mean this is like a message? Yes, she said quietly. But it's not a greeting or a warning. It's something else. Something observational. They're telling us what they see, what they know about us, without actually revealing themselves completely. The idea unsettled the team. Humans had never encountered anything like this before. They had studied signals from distant stars, from other human colonies, and even from natural cosmic phenomena. But never had they come across something that seemed aware of their presence, watching them quietly, almost like a shadow. Meanwhile, deep in the council's hidden chambers, the oldest member and several representatives monitored human progress from a distance. They had assumed humans would be decades away from detecting any trace of their observation. They had underestimated them. Already, humans were noticing anomalies in the cosmos, piecing together fragments of what the Council considered absolute secrecy. The Council, representatives whispered among themselves, their voices low with worry. They're analyzing the signals faster than we expected, one said. Another shook their head. We thought they would dismiss these as cosmic noise. Instead, they're dissecting every detail. The oldest member remained silent for a moment, then spoke softly. They are learning, and they are curious. And their curiosity is dangerous. On the human research station, the team continued working tirelessly. Each breakthrough led to more questions. The lead researcher began connecting the layers of data, creating a model that could anticipate what the next signal might contain. They were essentially speaking a language that had never existed, trying to understand it through logic, patterns, and intuition. Late one night, after weeks of tireless work, the linguist leaned back in her chair, eyes wide. I think I've translated something, she whispered. The others gathered around as she pointed to a set of symbols that had been part of the signal for weeks. They weren't words as humans understood them. They were concepts encoded in energy patterns, representing observations of human behavior, thought processes, and tendencies. It was as if someone or something had been watching humanity from afar, studying them, documenting them, and now leaving subtle hints for those who could understand. The lead researcher felt a chill run down his spine. They've been observing us? Yes, the linguist said. They know who we are, what we do, how we think. And somehow, they're leaving these fragments for us to find. The room went silent. The team realized that they were not alone in the universe in a way they had never imagined. Humans had always looked to the stars with curiosity, dreaming of life beyond their world, imagining what other civilizations might be like. Now, the evidence was undeniable. Some intelligence far beyond their own, had been observing them for decades, perhaps centuries. Excitement mixed with fear. The team understood the significance of their discovery, but also its danger. They were the first humans to unravel this hidden message. What if revealing it brought consequences they could not control? What if the observers were not benevolent? Despite the fear, the human instinct to explore, to understand, and to learn drove them forward. They continued decoding the signal, layer by layer, discovering patterns that described their own history, their technology, and even their mistakes. It was like seeing themselves reflected in a mirror from a perspective that no human had ever imagined. One member finally spoke aloud, voice trembling with a mix of awe and fear. "This is incredible. They know us, and yet they haven't contacted us directly. They're letting us find this ourselves." The lead researcher nodded. "It's almost like a test. They want to see how we handle it. They want to see if we're ready." Meanwhile, the council watched from their hidden stations, anxiety rising. The oldest member had expected humans to remain unaware for decades, but now the reality was unavoidable. Humans were no longer passive. They were active seekers, analyzing, learning, and adapting. Every move they made brought them closer to the truth that the council had tried to hide. One representative spoke, voice tight with concern. "They're faster than we thought. What happens if they discover everything?" The oldest member's face darkened. "Then we face what we have been trying to avoid. Humanity will know we exist, and nothing we do can stop what comes next." Back on the human station, the researchers continued to work tirelessly. They mapped out sections of the signal that contained information about spatial anomalies, energy sources, and cosmic structures previously unknown to humanity. Each new piece of data pushed their understanding further. They began designing experiments to test the patterns, sending probes and instruments to collect more data. Each success fueled their curiosity even more. The team realized that this was not just a signal. It was a doorway to understanding something far greater than themselves. Something that had been watching quietly, waiting for humanity to reach this point. Late one cycle. After months of analysis, the linguist turned to the lead researcher and said, "We're not just observing them. They're observing us back, and somehow they're leaving the path open for us to find them." The lead researcher stared at the screens, the flickering patterns of the signal reflecting in his eyes. "We've always wondered if we were alone. Now we know. We're not. And the universe is bigger, more alive, and more aware than we ever imagined." As the humans continued their work, the council began to realize the truth. Their secret was slipping. Humans were learning, adapting, and decoding fragments that were never meant for them. The observers had underestimated human determination, resilience, and intelligence. For the first time in centuries, the council felt unease that could not be controlled. Humans were no longer passive. They were active, curious, and unstoppable in their search for knowledge. And soon, very soon, they would discover the truth. And when they did, the galaxy would never be the same again. Time moved differently for the humans as they worked. Each discovery, each new piece of the signal, added layers to their understanding of the universe. Yet, even as they pieced together what they could, they had no idea just how closely they were being observed. The Galactic Council watched silently, their hidden eyes following every calculation, every experiment, every note scribbled on paper or tablet. For centuries, they had assumed humans would remain blissfully unaware. Now they knew their assumption had been wrong. The humans did not feel the weight of the galaxy upon them. To them, the work was exhilarating. They were discovering patterns and signals that no one else had ever seen. They tested, they measured, they questioned, and above all, they dreamed. Their curiosity became a driving force, pushing them to explore further, think deeper, and reach higher. One night, the lead researcher sat alone, staring at the flickering patterns of energy on the main screen. Every pulse told a story, but the story was incomplete. It was as if someone had left clues, hints scattered across the universe, waiting for the right minds to follow. He realized that they were not alone in this effort, that something intelligent, something aware, was shaping the path for humanity. He leaned back and whispered to himself, "They're watching. And somehow, they're guiding us." On the council side, tension had grown unbearable. The oldest member and several representatives met in a special chamber to discuss the unprecedented speed at which humans were decoding information. This was no ordinary observation. Humans were learning, adapting, and anticipating far faster than any other species had ever done. "We underestimated them," one representative admitted quietly. "We thought decades would pass before they approached this level. Now it may take only a few cycles." Another shook their head, feathers trembling slightly. "They are relentless. They do not wait for permission. They do not fear what they cannot see. Every obstacle only fuels their determination." The oldest member closed his eyes, a deep weight settling over him. "They are human. That is their nature. And it makes them unpredictable, unstoppable, and dangerous in ways we cannot fully prepare for." Meanwhile, on the human station, a breakthrough occurred. The linguist finally managed to decode a sequence within the signal that revealed more than patterns. It revealed intent. Whoever was observing humans had not acted out of fear or aggression. They were watching carefully, studying, noting, and leaving breadcrumbs to test human perception. It was a form of communication without direct contact, and humans understood it immediately. The lead researcher gathered the team. "We're not alone," he said, his voice shaking with a mix of excitement and awe. "Someone or something is observing us. They've been leaving patterns for us to discover. They're guiding us." The team sat in stunned silence. They had suspected life beyond their solar system for decades, but this was different. This was intelligent, purposeful, and close enough to affect their research. "We need to document everything," the linguist said firmly. "Every sequence, every pattern, every anomaly. We must understand it fully before we make any assumptions." For weeks, the team worked tirelessly. Each sequence they decoded opened new doors. They began predicting future patterns of the signal with increasing accuracy, essentially following a trail left specifically for them. It was as if the observer was testing human curiosity and intelligence, and humanity was rising to the challenge. Back with the council, anxiety reached new heights. The representatives realized that the humans were approaching the truth faster than anticipated. Every simulation, every projection, every observation indicated the same unsettling fact. Humans were on the verge of discovering their existence. A representative with glowing eyes spoke first, voice tight with worry. "They are learning faster than we predicted. Our control over their perception is slipping." Another added, "They are not just learning, they are anticipating. They are adapting in real time. Soon they will question everything we have tried to hide." The oldest member spoke with quiet authority. "Then we prepare, not to hide, but to manage what comes next. Humans are resilient, curious, and compassionate. We must consider the possibility that we are no longer the only active agents shaping the future of the galaxy." Meanwhile, the humans' efforts began to attract attention from other nearby species. Minor civilizations that had long remained in the background noticed the strange signals, but none could interpret them. Only humans were able to follow the trail, because their minds combined curiosity, creativity, and determination in ways no other species could. The team realized that they were on the edge of a monumental discovery. The signals were not just patterns, they were lessons. Each sequence taught humans something new about the universe: energy flows, cosmic phenomena, and even the behavior of distant stars. The observer had provided more than information. They had provided a framework for understanding. Late one evening, as the human team worked quietly, the lead researcher turned to his colleagues. "We are being prepared," he said softly. "Not for war, not for fear, but for understanding. Someone wants us to reach this point. They want us ready for the day we finally see them. The linguist nodded slowly. It feels like they trust us. Or at least, they are testing us to see if we deserve that trust. The team continued their work with renewed vigor. Every calculation, every observation, every experiment was now guided by the realization that humans were part of something far larger than their own world. They were no longer merely explorers. They were participants in a galaxy that had been observing them for centuries. On the council side, a debate broke out among representatives. Some argued that humans should be contacted directly, guided openly rather than secretly observed. Others warned that such contact might overwhelm human understanding, provoke fear, or spark conflict. The oldest member listened quietly, weighing the arguments. Finally, he spoke. Humans are reaching a point where they cannot be hidden from the truth. But how we reveal it matters. We must ensure that the first contact teaches curiosity, cooperation, and respect, not fear or aggression. The council agreed to a cautious plan. They would continue observing, but they would allow certain discoveries to occur naturally, guiding humans subtly without directly intervening. This was unprecedented, but there was no alternative. Humans were ready to learn, and the galaxy had no choice but to prepare for their arrival. Back on the human station, the team finally decoded the last layer of the signal. It revealed spatial coordinates locations in the galaxy where anomalies were concentrated and where intelligence had been observing them. Humans were stunned. They realized they were following a map, carefully laid out over decades, leading them to an encounter with something beyond their imagination. The lead researcher took a deep breath. "This is it," he said. "We are standing at the threshold of understanding. The galaxy has been watching us. And now, we are ready to step forward." The team prepared to launch a probe to the first set of coordinates. It was small, simple, and unarmed, but it represented something monumental. Humanity's first step into direct exploration, guided by intelligence beyond their own. The excitement was palpable. Every member of the team felt history being made in real time. The probe launched quietly, slipping through the void toward the first coordinates. Humans watched the telemetry with bated breath, noting every anomaly, every unexpected reading. The data began streaming back, confirming that something somewhere was observing them, guiding them, and waiting. The council watched from afar, silent and tense. They could see the probe's progress, but they could not intervene. Humans were making choices, taking risks, and demonstrating exactly why they had been underestimated for so long. The council had predicted curiosity, but not this level of ingenuity, resilience, and determination. Hours passed. The probe entered a region of space unlike any humans had encountered. Strange energy patterns, subtle gravitational shifts, and unexplainable phenomena surrounded it. Yet the probe transmitted every reading faithfully. Humans recorded, analyzed, and interpreted, adapting their understanding in real time. The council members murmured among themselves. One said quietly, "They are learning faster than our models. We cannot predict the outcome anymore." Another replied, "Perhaps that is the point. Perhaps humans were meant to reach this stage." The oldest member remained silent, watching. In his mind, he acknowledged the truth that the council had long tried to avoid. Humanity was not only ready for the wider galaxy, they were ready for discovery itself. Back on the human station, the team celebrated a small success. The probe had returned detailed information about the region, confirming that they were on the right path. Humanity had taken the first step into a galaxy that had been watching them quietly for centuries. They understood now that the universe was more alive, more intelligent, and more interconnected than they had ever imagined. The lead researcher looked at the team and said softly, "We've always thought we were small, insignificant, alone. But the truth is, we are part of something greater, something that has been preparing us for this moment all along." The humans continued their work with renewed purpose. They were no longer just explorers or scientists. They were participants in a larger story, one that had been unfolding long before they were born. And even though they did not know who had been W,